set up. We'll restart the meeting, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies for having to change the schedule. I had a funeral this afternoon.
That's fine, Rob. Once I've got everyone's cameras back on, we're waiting for Wendy's. Mary, Wendy, are you still there? Are they still there? Yeah, Wendy's there. I can't see things.
Sam.
Mary's here, is she?
No, people who whose mic, so cams. Oh, when it's back, Mary's cam's still off.
Yeah.
And
Sam's.
Sam Richard.
Who are he is?
Sam's back. Okay.
Sam's back. Is Mary back?
So it's just Mary Jones's cam's off. So she might have.
I've gone for a cup of tea. Yeah. So a message her. Okay. Right. I've messaged Mary Jones, so hopefully she'll be back shortly. Just give it a minute till she comes back, shall we? We had pause for 15 minutes, Rob, because we weren't sure what time you're going to be able to get here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I just need to make sure all the members are back before we resume. Yeah, we're going to do item 5. So the next item we're going to do is public question time. I haven't restarted yet, so I'm just going to tell you. May have seen the email last night, Rob. Ben Horton's has got a series of questions, but I've said he can ask the first one, and then we're going to send them all to you for a written answer, because I don't think there was enough notice given for such detailed questions, and I think it'd be unfair on you to ask you to respond to all those questions on such short notice.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Right.
We're waiting for Mary. I can get Ben to sit at the table.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to come to the table, Ben? And yeah. Okay. Okay, well, I think we should restart then. I have messaged Mary. Hopefully she'll get that and come back in shortly. Right, so item 5, are you ready to record? Okay, do you want to start? We're recording. Okay, so item 5 is public question time, and we've got a question from Ben Horton about the Skyline project. Ben, do you want to ask your question?
Thank you. Just for quick context, NRW invasive disease tree notice is like placed on the land that I'm talking about, which is obviously beholden to the owner. The first question: council land lease status are the works currently taking place on the council-owned land, and is the relevant lease disposal agreed, signed, and effective, and discharged via the condition 51? If it is not signed or discharged, on what lawful basis are third-party enabling works being permitted on council land?
Rob, do you want to come back on that, or do you want to do the written answer?
Apologies, Chair. Thank you very much for that. Apologies, I got a short statement to make, and obviously, as you indicated, I will follow up with a more detailed response to Mr. Houghton in due course. Obviously, thank you for the question on the Skyline project. I can confirm that the requisite legal agreements are in place to allow works to commence. These works are located on council-controlled land. The early works at Kilvey are being undertaken by the Skyline team, with all works being overseen by a team of certified ecologists. The preparatory works will focus on tree clearance alongside gondola route, followed by the safe removal of diseased non-native trees within the site boundary. Skyline will be replacing the existing conifer forest, which NRW have already planned to clear as part of its long-term forest management strategy, with an ecologically rich combination of native broadland trees, woodland edge planting, hedging, shrubs, sustainable drainage system plants, grasslands, meadow seeding, all helping to restore Kilvey Hill's ecological balance and providing a net positive biodiversity impact for Kilvey Hill. This is in line with the planning approval. I can also confirm that all pre-clearance planning conditions have been discharged and a risk and management document RAMS has been agreed with the council. The council will also monitor the works throughout this works period. And I know Mr. Houghton has submitted a further set of questions, and as I indicated, Chair, we'll follow up with detailed responses to each of those.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. We'll include those questions in our letter to you after this meeting, so you can respond to the committee formally on that, if that's okay. Right, I think we have a copy of those. Thank you, Ben. Lovely. Right, I'm going to move on then to the item 6, which is the question and answer session with the leader for economy and responsible for economy, finance and strategy. There is a report. Do you want to say any few words on your report, Rob, before we go into questions at all?
Yeah, I think probably best as usual with these. I know members will have read the report. I think it's best I give as much time as possible for members who may want to ask questions on that report. I'm happy to do so.
Okay, lovely. Right, well, I've got the first question, which is on financial sustainability. Your portfolio report highlights rising social care and homelessness costs and limited flexibility in future settlements. What areas of financial risk concern you most for 26-27 and beyond, and how confident are you that the council can maintain service stability in that context?
Apologies, Chair. Yeah, in terms of financial sustainability, obviously we continue to keep a close eye on social services, mental health, residential, and children's, especially with the Eliminate agenda. Homelessness obviously provides further pressures to us, and I know Councillor Williams has attended previously to talk about the ongoing national pressures that we are not immune from in terms of homelessness. Additional learning needs. Again, we're working with our teams in education to make sure that we restructure the provision in terms of ALN throughout our schools estate. And all of these are pressures that we are continuing to monitor closely in terms of the ones that are most prominent, I think, for the coming year.
Thank you, Rob. The half-year monitoring report shows that overspend's been mitigated through contingency and spending controls. Are these measures sustainable, and what longer-term strategies will reduce structural pressure in high-demand services?
Yes, I think the simple answer to that is yes. I think, having been leader now for over a decade, I think it's the first time I've seen a Q2 report that is so positive in terms of the financial sustainability and balance of the council. Usually, as members will know, Q1 we often have a deficit which usually grows in Q2 and then recovers by end of year. If you look at the Q2 monitoring report at the present time, we're technically in surplus, even though it does show some deficits in those areas. And I'm informed that Q3 will improve again on that position, and we should be at a balanced budget by the end of the year, if not in a slight surplus. So again, I think the efforts taken by directors, cabinet members, and Mr. Smith and his whole financial team have placed us in a very strong position in terms of the balanced budget that we want to see for this authority.
Thank you for that. Lyndon, do you have question 3?
Great, fine. Afternoon, Rob. Given the scale of the transformation programme, 13 programmes in total, what areas are currently furthest off track or facing the greatest barriers to delivery, and what corrective action is being taken?
I think none of them are off track. I wouldn't say that. I think that each of the programs has different degrees of challenge with them, as you would expect from a transformation program. Clearly, net zero is one of the biggest challenges, not just for this council, but for the entire UK. And that's not because we don't have a robust plan for net zero, but the costs of making that transition to net zero are ones that the council cannot make alone. I think we've said this at previous scrutiny meetings. We've got a really good plan. All our departments are playing their part to help us with net zero, but it's inevitable that if we're going to decarbonise our entire estate, our housing, that is going to need significant additional investment for us and for other councils from national governments to allow us to reach all of those aims. So I'd put net zero up there as one of the key challenges. You'll know that we've been through a little bit of a bumpy period on waste, and obviously the pressures for us to continue to support our residents to recycle more remain. We've met our targets this year again on waste, and I want to pay tribute to the work that our teams do day in, day out, often in difficult weather conditions. And we will continue to do all we can to help residents recycle more, so that we can continue to make that positive commitment and positive contribution to recycling more across our communities. And of course, Swansea remains one of the best recycling cities in the world. I think the other one, as I referenced in my response to the chair, is homelessness. We have taken some actions, as you'll be aware, in terms of the recent opening of Glass, which is an excellent facility. And I just wanted to pause there to say, to be really clear with some of those ill-judged comments that I've seen online, making overtly racist comments, in my opinion, to this subject. When we are delivering accommodation like we've got at Least Glass now, this is to allow us to help people. Often they will be people whose family arrangements have broken down, women who may be fleeing domestic abuse. These are people in real need of urgent accommodation, and that's what the temporary accommodation at Least Glass will help us provide. It'll help us avoid, if we can, the use of B&B accommodation, which isn't purpose-built and purposeful temporary accommodation. It is something that we should continue to try and move away from and avoid. And the delivery of these will help us meet those significant pressures that we see in homelessness, not just in Swansea, but across the UK. I'm very proud that we continue to be an authority that has the always a bed pledge, where we're there to make sure that people who present as homelessness are moved and supported to find a safe place to sleep, and then hopefully onto accommodation that meets their needs. But we've got 6,500 people waiting for homes in Swansea. The pressures across the UK are significant, and that's why delivering more homes is really important, and that includes this element of temporary accommodation. So really pleased to see that facility coming online. We'll have noted that we're looking to acquire another building now in St Helens Road, and that can only help us deal with some of those pressures and avoid people being out in the streets. Because I get to travel, as I'm sure many of you do, to other parts of the UK, and I'm really heartened by the small number of people that you potentially see in Swansea. And again, I think, do an excellent job with our third sector and voluntary partners in detecting the people who may be homeless and then helping them into accommodation.
I just ask, Rob, is the property on St Helens Road also for single homeless, or will that be families in there as well?
So at the present time, the one on St Helens Road will be temporary accommodation. So again, the mix of that will be determined in due course.
We haven't decided whether it be single people or couples or families in that accommodation yet, on temporary.
Well, again, the room configuration, I believe, is one that will need very little amendment from us in terms of how that could be set up to support people. As you know, we don't generally offer accommodation above third floor unless families request it. We always try and find families lower accommodation. But again, given the pressures, if families do wish, if a family does come along and need accommodation, then obviously we give them that choice. But I haven't with me this evening got the full detail of how that complex will be reconfigured. But I know it'll add more than 60 rooms available to support people who are in need of temporary accommodation.
Yeah, thanks for that. I asked the question in planning, we didn't get the answer there, so I just like, maybe put that in the letter and you can find out for us. That'd be great. Thank you.
Happy to do so.
Yeah, Lyndon, go on. Are you question 4 or oh, hang on, Mary, do you want to follow up on this?
Yeah, can I just ask a question? Sorry, of the leader. You know, a lot of the homeless people appear to have a pet, a dog or something. Are we going to allow that in either Cleasglass or St Helens Road? Because, you know, it's very difficult. They won't be parted from their pet. And also, we know a lot of homeless people have other problems. Are we able to accommodate them in these 2 buildings that we are actually going to transfer to homeless?
Councillor Jones, I will get you the answer on that one, because obviously I wouldn't want to answer on the standard lines for the same reasons I gave the chair. I'm not familiar with the constraints that we might have in Cleasglass, but obviously I will get that answer for you as soon as I can.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks, Rob. Lyndon, do you want to come on to your next question?
Great, fine. Thank you. Yeah. Last year you committed to clarifying when further public consultation on the waste strategy would take place. Can you now give the committee a clear timeline for consultation, decision and implementation? And I bear in mind the points you made about waste, and we've all seen that as well in the answer to your last question.
Yes, certainly. Look, we wanted to ensure that we got into a steady state again in terms of refuse collections, and that steady state, to be really clear, is ensuring that we collect the refuse from people's homes on the day that we state that we're going to be there. So that's what steady state is, and that is where we got back to. Obviously, we had some further disruption during the bad weather recently, where our vehicles were unable to access all of the roads because of the conditions. But, you know, we are back into that steady state of being able to deliver the services on the day that we said. In terms of what we do next, we are now preparing to go back to the public in terms of the consultation around movement to different types of containers. There is a real opportunity here for us now to ensure that we can eliminate over 10 million pieces of single-use plastic from our waste streams, and encourage people to be able to recycle more without, having to use that amount of single-use plastic. So, a number of containers I think have been through a number of reviews with residents groups. There's been a small trial, and again, we'd be looking now to return with that waste strategy consultation in terms of that potential implementation coming forward. What I can absolutely rule out is any reduction in black bag waste limits for the authority as part of that strategy.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Can I say, I've had a number of people express concerns about these hard plastic boxes for bottles and cans, and particularly they might be heavy for people to carry through their houses, etc. Have you had any feedback on that in the pilots you've run?
Yes, so we've, if you like, right-sized the containers to make sure that they don't become too heavy for people, and to go along with that, we've remade the commitment that people will be able to have as many recycling containers as they wish, free of charge, to help them recycle. So if they need 2, rather than having 1 heavy one, they can have that.
Okay. I think the other thing is that obviously we all want to know when it's going to be rolled out. I know you're going out to consultation again. Could you make a commitment that when you have a rollout strategy implementation plan, that you actually share it with all the councillors, so we're aware when it comes out and in what wards, etc., and when?
Yeah, absolutely, Chair. And, I can confirm, I'm sure Councillor Anderson will want to say more when he's before you, but the plan will be to build on the pilot that was successful. We had some really good feedback from the pilot. And it would then be a gradual rollout of these new containers across the authority, so that we can continue to hone and improve the rollout as we go, rather than having a big bang approach to that rollout. And of course, ward members will be advised of the timescales for that as we go.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Okay. Next item, question, Chris Holly.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Leader. Major regeneration schemes are progressing well in many cases, but several are multi-year, reliant on partner funding. of all the major capital programs that are currently underway and the regeneration ones, what ones are currently at risk, and what are the cost escalations and timescales?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Holly. Look, I would say that none are at risk at the present time. Obviously, like all major projects across the UK, we're not immune from the recent inflationary blip that the UK has seen following the pandemic. So we did go through a period where construction costs did get uplifted in the way that lots of things did by the higher rates of inflation. We're now seeing that settle back again, and we are working through the programs. Scrutiny have had a number of detailed updates in terms of the various projects themselves, in terms of how that inflationary pressure has built over the period. I'm really pleased with the continued delivery of our major programs. Obviously, most recently, we've been able to open Astorva, which has been extremely well received by the public. The car park is now operational by the rear of Astorva as well. We're on site in Castle Square Gardens, I should say, at the present time, and obviously that scheme will progress as the year goes on. We hope to be on site very shortly in terms of the new public sector hub, and Urban Splash are about to start the formal consultation on the repurposing of the Civic Centre. Outside of that, obviously, Skyline are continuing to take their project forward. We are busy on the River Corridor in terms of the levelling up fund and the restoration of the engine houses and the whole River Corridor development that will complement what Skyline are doing on the hill. In our schools estate, we have seen some cost pressures there as well, but we are now getting to a point of close to either outline or final business case on a number of our proposed next phase of school improvements. Obviously, we've been busy as well delivering the universal free school meals upgrades to schools across the authority. And of course, we've been busy continuing to renovate our council homes across the authority, as well as acquiring and building new homes as we go. And I would expect to see the pace of our council house renovations pick up again. Now we've dealt with the challenges that members will be aware that we have to be mindful of in the last few months. But again, I hope to see the pace pick up on those. So I'm really confident. I intend to say a little bit more about the detail of some of those schemes as we get into 2026. I'm, as you can imagine, extremely keen to be able to tell everybody who the Debenhams tenants are, but that is unfortunately in the hands of the tenants themselves to permit us to do that. But I do hope it's not much longer for us to be able to confirm who those tenants are. Strip out works, as members will be aware, have been ongoing, and that will allow the fit out works to begin very shortly, which means we're getting close then to the point at which the tenants can then move in and open their new stores and new facilities. So, I'm as frustrated as everybody else, because I would really like to be able to share those tenants' details with you as soon as possible. But yeah, Councillor Holly, I remain really confident about this. I think we've been able to absorb cost pressures, thankfully, given the extra capital that we've been able to secure, and the extra funding we've been able to secure through some of Mr. Smith's investment, and that has allowed us to continue with the ambitious plans we've got for the city. So really, really pleased with where we are.
Thank you, Nida. On some of those, we've had extra funding from the Welsh Government as well on a number of these projects, have we not?
Yes, Welsh Government have been hugely supportive of our ambitions in Swansea, and again, I think we are very grateful, because if you look at the figures for transforming towns, etc., Swansea has had significantly above its fair share of investment and support from Welsh Government. So really pleased that continues. Obviously, would also like to see some further investment coming from our other partners in UK Government, and negotiations and discussions are ongoing with representatives of UK Government to see what additional support they may also be able to bring. Very pleased to see things like Celtic Freeports taking place, and the investment going into Port Talbot. Obviously, we talked to both UK and Welsh governments in a roundtable event before Christmas around the private sector proposals for that new tidal lagoon. We're working with Dave Sampson and his team on the potential for the the ferry that goes between South Wales and South West. Again, his team around there are quite innovative in terms of what they are proposing to bring forward. So again, we remain, in support of those actions. Lots going on. Some will take a little longer to deliver than others, but I remain really positive about what we're able to do. And just one final thing, if I can, Chair, in terms of this question, obviously we had a really good hearing at the Wales Investment Summit before Christmas. And again, we were one of just 5 projects in Wales able to pitch at that event. Again, we've had some interest following that from people who were in attendance. So again, really good to be able to put our offerings and our opportunities in Swansea on that stage in the Celtic Manor before Christmas.
Yeah, I am aware that went reasonably well, and that we did have some feedback from various developers. On the subject that you actually brought up, which wasn't in the question, but you have brought it up about free ports and the possible development of floating wind turbines that going out into the channel, in the St. George's Channel. The aspect about that and the fact that there's a potential for repairs and rebuild in Port Talbot, and obviously the work that's been done to the city deal down in Milford Haven and Pembroke is. I've actually seen that, and it's quite astonishing what has happened, and actually could benefit the whole of Wales quite substantially. But on the work that's being done at Port Talbot, there's yet to be funding secured for the actual the wharfing in Port Talbot. Are you anywhere closer, or do you know anything more about that potential, that they're using the breakwater and the land alongside the breakwater for that? Because I think that with the loss of jobs in Port Talbot obviously affecting much of Swansea as well, any major engineering works that carry out there could have a major benefit for people in Swansea.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Holly. I mean, obviously, as we're not the lead authorities on the Celtic Freeport, no. Pembrokeshire and East Port Talbot are, they will have more detail on this than I do. And forgive me if I get any of this slightly wrong, but I'll do my best to try and give you a flavour of where we are on it. I'm aware that early days of the new UK government, there was an announcement on £80 million investment for Port Talbot Port, and obviously that potentially could have the benefit of helping to upgrade the wharf there and the dock side. In terms of the linkages between that, you're absolutely right. The floating offshore wind licensing and the tenders that are going through with the Crown Estates at the moment do offer some major opportunities for the South Wales coast. If this does come to pass in the way that we hope, then both Swansea Port and East Port Talbot Port could benefit from that, with assembly and maintenance and other stuff being done at Swansea Port, and obviously major assembly and construction at Port Talbot Port. These floating offshore wind towers are the height of the Shard, and the potential is there for one of these to be floated out every few weeks into the Celtic Sea from that port. So I think there's a huge potential for a new industry, thousands of new jobs as part of floating offshore wind, and a huge win not just for us locally and regionally, but for the UK as a whole. Because at the moment, one of the challenges that we all have in the UK is that we're still don't have energy security. We're reliant on foreign powers for our energy. And of course, the more of that energy we can produce locally, control locally, and from green sources, the better it is for all of us and for the UK. So, I think there are huge opportunities in here. It's one of the things I think that has probably snuck up on people, because it could be so impactful for us as a region, but it probably isn't something that gets discussed over the dinner tables across South Wales. I think that's all of our job now to try and make sure that people are aware of it, like they were for the tidal lagoon, because it is as transformational as the tidal lagoon, probably even more so in terms of jobs. And again, in talking to Associated British Ports, in talking to other partners, the tidal lagoon elements and the floating offshore wind elements can both be delivered. So it's not one or the other, it's that both can be delivered.
Thank you for that, Lee. I think that the offshore wind is probably far more important and deliverable than anything else, and hugely beneficial to the whole of South West Wales. My next question is a little bit more local, really. It's about the securing a £20 million more government levelling up fund. I know we're now using it for the River Towie Morva Copper Works, when we were going to use it for other projects as well. Can you explain what we're actually going to be doing, spending that 20 million? And I think it's spread over a number of years as well. And also on the other projects, are we likely to be able to get any funding for them as well? And I mean the museum as an example.
Yeah. So thank you, Councillor Holly. Yeah. So you're quite right in terms of the levelling up funding, which obviously was different to the processes in place now, because obviously the previous government had a different way of approaching this. So levelling up, as you'll recall, was a competitive bidding process. You had to put money up in order to get money. So we had to stake circa 10 million in order to draw down the 20 million that we received from the previous government. That money was never going to be in itself able to do everything that was the potential of the river corridor, the museum, and all of the things referenced in the scheme. Especially as I referenced earlier, this was being worked on way before those high periods of inflation came to pass in terms of major projects. But to be fair to the team, they've been brilliant, and the work that's gone on already at Morva in terms of the copper works there. You've got Penderyn operating, the visitor centre, the laboratory building behind it is under renovation. The hope is that would become a restaurant destination in that location. You've then got the two engine houses being restored, with obviously the plans for the cafe area and the new river walkway taking you all the way down the west side of the river down to the marina. And of course, that will, linking very nicely then, as I said, with Skyline and their scheme, but also the Swans plans for, what they potentially could do as part of their offering in and around the stadium. And we're in an early stage of discussions with the Swans in terms of potential investments around the stadium, which again is of real interest to us, and we're supportive. Tie that together, of course, then with the potential for the South West Wales Metro and a new station at Landor, which we're keen to see delivered earlier, and that helps with the transport constraints that we have in that area. But the other parts that you referenced quite rightly, Councillor Holly, are the plans for the connectivity on the Strand, and we've done some of that already, but that will take, again, additional schemes and bringing together of a number of programmes for us to be able to do all of the works that potentially would be required in that area. And then I know the team are already talking and preparing future bids to HLF and others around what we could do to improve and enhance our Swansea Museum. So, none of the elements that we bid for are being set aside or not taken forward. It's just the phasing of how we do it. And obviously, to try and make sure that we make progress as quickly as possible, the focus in the first phase is on the river corridor elements, and then we'll move to the Strand and the HLF, the museum elements, as the other funding hopefully gets secured and comes online.
Thank you very much for all your answers, Leader.
Thank you, Rob. Just moving on to my question on the Skyline. I think we understood from your answer to Ben Horton on the public questions that the land acquisition for the Skyline project is now being completed. Has the issue with National Resources Wales therefore been resolved, and are you able to say what the financial implications for the council are?
So I can confirm that the the issues and the negotiations with NRW are complete, and that we have now finalised that transaction. I would need to check that information is currently in the public domain. I would have no issue in sharing it, but I wouldn't want to share it today without checking with the legal officers whether I'm able to. What I would say, though, Chair, and I make no bones about this, we have had a tough negotiation with NRW. It's been far more difficult than it needed to be. I am exasperated, to be honest with you, at some of the ways in which NRW approach their public sector role. I have written to Welsh Government and been extremely clear that I believe that the Welsh Government should consider a different arrangement for NRW. And I am infuriated that we had to negotiate a new deal with NRW, having what we thought agreed a deal in good faith early days. So I am annoyed and angry at the way in which we had to get this one over the line. I do believe that parts of government should work together in the interests of the public, and I didn't feel that NRW were a team player on this one.
Is it right that the Welsh Government provided a grant towards the NRW resolution at all?
Certainly, Welsh Government were helpful in trying to help us unlock this issue with NRW.
Okay, fair enough. I assume that we're actually buying the land off them as opposed to just getting a license over. Is that right?
I believe we are buying back control of that land.
We're buying the control of it or the ownership of it.
Well, it's reverting entirely to our control.
Okay, so in any case, the amount of money we paid will appear on the land register at some stage anyway. So yeah, okay. Peter, May, you want to come in on this?
Sometimes, Rob, projects that we're relying on and we all want to see happen are taken out of our control. I'm obviously referring to St Helens, where we, really wanted the Ospreys to succeed, but they might not be an entity anymore. We don't know what's going to happen. The question I've got is, when we get a little pitfall like this, which is out of our control, have we got the flexibility to reconsider the direction of travel in what we're going? And I'm referring really, is it too late to consider diverting the investment that we are spending on the cricket centre back into St Helens for first-class cricket if the rugby isn't going to take off?
Yeah, so if I can answer that in two parts, Chair, if that's okay. In terms of Councillor May's sort of general thrust around, if the Ospreys' proposals and ambitions aren't able to be realised, would we do something else? I think it's just helpful to remind ourselves that the Ospreys' ambitions to move back to St Helens were added in to our original international sports park aspirations. So as you'll be aware, members, that we set out a clear vision to bring a number of hopefully international sporting bodies and sports to the stretch of land between St Helens and the university, including the King George V playing fields. You'll know that we're in the process of putting new arrangements in the Wales National Pool because they were coming to a natural end and we needed to put new arrangements in place. I think it was important as well that we took the opportunity to invest in cricket. And given that the reconfiguration of St Helens would not have allowed cricket and rugby to be played together, it made sense as part of the overarching international sports park development for us to do something specifically additional on cricket anyway. And I think, regardless of what happens at St Helens, I think that is a good thing for us to do for cricket. I think to Councillor May's point around, would you revert back and do something more on St Helens for cricket? Well, I guess that comes down to what does the International Cricket Board and other cricket associations, what would they commit to in order for us to consider that? Because one of the constraints that we had was that we would have loved to have seen, first-class cricket being played at St Helens again. The cricket organisations were not able to give us that commitment. And, nobody is going to spend money on a sporting stadium that then has no team to play in it. So again, if any sporting organisation came to us and said, look, we will be able to bring international or highest sport level games on a regular basis to this, would you work with us on something? Of course, we'd have that discussion. Of course, we'd explore it. But at the present time, it doesn't appear that there is any appetite to bring first-class cricket back to St Helens, much as we'd all like to see it come back to Swansea. So I guess what happens at St Helens will first primarily be decided on what we learn in the next few days over the arrangements that the WRU are seeking to put in place. There are lots of rumours swirling at the moment around potential different arrangements which would see the Ospreys continue alongside anything that could be put in place with Cardiff, but that's not being confirmed. Our position remains exactly the same as it was yesterday, and I've made a very strong statement today, calling out the WRU because, for everyone who wants to see our Welsh rugby teams succeed across Wales, and as well as I want to see the Ospreys because they are our team, I want to see Welsh rugby succeed. The current continued uncertainty and drift by the WRU is harming Welsh rugby. Our players are leaving Wales and joining clubs in the rest of the UK or abroad because they cannot secure a future here with certainty. And that is laid at the feet of the WRU. It is them that has caused that. And we all want certainty. I want certainty that says the Ospreys are going to continue as a first-class regional side. They are the most successful region. They've got every right to continue. And if the WRU stick to the criteria that it first laid out, the Ospreys would be the side they choose. So, I'm very clear on that. And I know many members, or if not all members in the room, will be on the same page. So I guess that will determine what potentially could happen at St Helens. But of course, if the WRU let us all down and don't come along to do that, we will obviously work with all parties to see what we can do to bring sport back to St Helens.
Okay. As Peter may have rather sneakily moved a follow-up question on Skyline onto cricket and St Helens. And Chris Holly, I know, wants to come in on this. Just briefly, Rob, there's talk about the Y11 buying Cardiff, and that's going to have an impact on the Ospreys. Do we know any more about that and what that will impact upon the plans for St Helens?
So I have had no confirmation from either the WRU or from the Ospreys that is correct. But obviously, I'm reading the speculation that everybody else is reading. I have sought assurances from the Ospreys and the WRU. We have letters waiting to go to both organisations. We are seeking an urgent meeting with the Y11 to understand exactly what the position is. And obviously, we are seeking also a discussion with Welsh Government around anything that they can do to bring clarity and to help resolve the situation, because of course Welsh Government themselves are people who have provided loans to the WRU to support regional rugby, and of course they issue a remit letter to the WRU on a regular basis, which places obligations on the WRU. So again, we are exploring all and every avenue as to how we can try and get to a position where Ospreys will continue to be our regional side based here in Swansea.
Chris, you want to come in on this?
Well, I'm going to completely support the leader in a couple of things here. One of them is with NRW and the way in which they have performed, not just on Skyline, but generally across the whole patch. It is a disgrace, and I totally agree with what you're saying. As for the Ospreys, I couldn't agree no more than what he has said. I think that the WRU would not just let the most successful regional team down, they've let regional rugby down. And I think worse than all of that is the effect that this is going to have on the fan base and the various clubs in the area. And I don't mean just in Swansea, I mean in Neath, I mean right across Wales, because there is no transparency in this. And while Eleven have had, or so we are told by the newspapers, have had the opportunity to do a selective pre-decision scrutiny or pre-decision discussion with the WRU on their own, no other team no other group involved, which under the rules of the organisation that they play in, only one owner can own one of the clubs. So what you're saying is absolutely right. It could mean that if they do buy Cardiff, possibly, then then they have to get rid of the Ospreys. And I think you are right in what you're saying, and I think we, as a council, should fully support what you're saying. And it's an absolute disgrace.
You want to come back on that one?
Yeah. Just to again thank Councillor Holly for his support. I think I think every member will be on the same page on this one. I think we've all got to come together to make our voices heard, so that they know how strong a feeling we have in support of our local team.
Okay, I'm going to move on now to city centre and economic growth. Mike White, you've got some questions on this?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you, Leader. My question is regarding city centre economic growth. Your report references high ambition for city centre regeneration and new economic forecasts. What evidence gives you the strongest confidence that this investment will translate into long-term job creation and local economic uplift? What are the biggest risks to sustaining private sector confidence and inward investment in Swansea? Sorry, it's a bit long-winded question, Leader, but just to cover those areas there.
That's okay, Councillor White. Thank you very much for that. I mean, I think the biggest, as we've just been talking about in the WRU, is no different, I think, for regeneration of our city centre or business, is it? So, if you have a period of sustained uncertainty, people, get nervous and they don't move forward with decisions. And I think that's one of the things that we should be really proud of in Swansea, is we have had a sustained period of the council having an agreed position, of us being very, very clear about what our ambitions are, and then setting out to stall and proceeding to deliver on a number of sites. And, those schemes, as members will know, doing big things like we've been doing are difficult. They come with risks, you can't foresee sometimes the things like the inflationary rates that you might incur further down the line. But, I think that would be the biggest risk to us. So if we decided suddenly we weren't sure about what we're doing, or we weren't going to be clear and committed to continue in the investment, the job creation, the regeneration, I think that would be an absolute killer for Swansea. But pleased to say that that is not the case, and we remain extremely clear, extremely ambitious, and that we remain, on top of our delivery. And as I said, I'm really, really pleased to see what's happening currently. As an impatient politician, I do want to see delivery faster often, but I know the team are working as hard as they can to get stuff done. I think the other thing to say is the evidence, as you asked for, Councillor White, is the fact that we have seen the Palace Theatre be regenerated and people move in there, and well-paid jobs being created. We've seen the Albert Hall open and it be successful. We've seen 71, 72 Kingsway open, now 80% full, the commercial units being occupied as well. Specsavers took up their place there, Optical Express I think was recently. And then on top of that, on the back of developments by people like Cartesi and Morgan's company, and Peter Loosemore and his company, you're seeing private investors coming in, buying buildings, regenerating them with their own money, and then letting them. And of course, Red Kite Solicitors have recently moved into Princess House as part of Cartesi's development there. And that was always the aim, I think, of things like the City deal, which is if the public sector lead and give confidence and deliver what they say they're going to do, then the private sector will come in with their own money and then start to do some of the heavy lifting for us. And that is what we're seeing happening. And, it is a busier city centre now. There is still a lot for us to do. There are still a lot of sites for us to deliver. And, I'm really excited what's going to come forward for the Civic in due course. But, the job creation numbers, the economic impact that having more jobs in the city centre has for our local businesses, for our cafe owners, for our taxis, for our hotels, all of those things have a big impact on our economy. And I'm really pleased to see those numbers continuing to improve year on year.
Okay, Mike?
Yes, thank you for that, leader. Yeah, it's certainly, just so you can see the difference with the sort of focal points for the city centre come to fruition. You say like the Oxford Street areas and places like that, which are real focal points, and of course linked in with the market. So you can certainly see it that way as well. I got another question, leader. Is in relation to public sector hub and civic centre redevelopment. The public sector hub is planned to start construction in 2026. How confident are you that partner tenancy agreements will be secured in time to ensure the financial model is viable?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor White, again. Look, I think our track record has been really good. If you look at 71, 72 Kingsway, we were able to, get to a point where we were 80% let on official opening. That's, it's a remarkable position. It doesn't often happen like that. If you look at, some of the major developments in Cardiff, they were opening with much lower tenancies agreed at that time. I think for the public sector hub, clearly we will take some space in there. We are looking at commercial tenants for the ground floor, and then office tenants, potentially other government departments from UK government, Welsh government, filling that space. But again, I would say that we shouldn't constrain ourselves to that, because if there are, as there may well be, opportunities for large private companies to relocate their operations into Swansea, we should certainly be looking to accommodate them in what we build. So I'm not set on a mix that is just government. I'm happy to explore all opportunities. And again, wouldn't it be great to have more multinational companies moving some of their operations into the city centre, creating those high quality, well-paid jobs here in the middle of Swansea for people locally to take advantage of? I think, we shouldn't close any doors.
Okay, Mike?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Do we have any more questions for the leader on his report at all? No? Okay. Can I thank you very much, Rob, for that report? It's been very entertaining, educational is what I was trying to say there. Been entertaining as well, but thank you very much for that. We're going to move on to item 7 now, which is a follow-up scrutiny on the Scrutiny Working Group on public engagement. As you know, we do try to follow up all the working groups and all the inquiries to make sure that the recommendations which we put in place are being implemented as agreed with by Cabinet. I know that your progress report is in section 5 of your portfolio paper, which we just discussed. Do you want to say anything at all on this before we go into questions?
Again, with this one, Chair, I think, I'm happy to give all of the time over to members. I know they'll have read the report, so happy to take questions as we go.
Okay, lovely. So I'm going to start with Councillor Mary Jones, who's got a question on underrepresented groups and targeted engagement. Mary.
Thank you very much, Chair. Right. How will the Council measure whether the expanded engagement database and targeted outreach is improving reach to the underrepresented groups?
Leader?
Apologies, Councillor Jones, I was on mute then. Look, I think it's a multifaceted approach here in terms of how we do that. Obviously, we deploy a range of different approaches to try and ensure we capture the broadest range of people's views from different groups and different sectors of our community. And that is a mixed approach. Sometimes it'll be online, sometimes it'll be through representatives groups, times it'll be through specific geographical groups. So again, we deploy a number of those, and within that, of course, we do try to ensure that we reach out to those perhaps harder to reach parts of our communities to ensure their voices are heard as well. But I think as we've discussed on a number of occasions at council and elsewhere, often it's the topic that will drive the range of or the level of engagement, because if it's a subject that people are really interested in or concerned about or enthused about, you tend to get much higher levels of engagement from that. As I've said before, whilst the budget is really, really important every year, sometimes it can be a bit of a dusty subject, and we don't always get the engagement that we'd like on that really important subject. And likewise, it can be the same for some other really important strategies that the council's seeking to bring forward, which will impact people's lives. So again, it is that mix of strategies, and the team do a great job, and they continue to modify and use our consultation and co-production, because again, I think co-production is a really important part of how we approach some of the policy development that we have, and making sure that people are able to help us design the services that they use. So it's a broad range, Councillor Jones. Hopefully that was a helpful response.
Okay,
So
Mary?
can I just come back? It's again about how we consult, because sometimes there's a consultation out at the moment about the flood alleviation scheme in Calais. There's only something like 3 questions, and I know it's obviously not a hot topic for the whole council, but it is important and everybody wants to get to go. And there's a little box. It's the how we actually ask the questions or give people more, they can actually put their views over in a better way. The other thing is, of course, we still have the issue that not everybody can access the internet. I know we keep thinking, oh, there's more and more, and they do it off their phones, but it's actually telling people that you can go to so-and-so to see a hard copy, but it's always on the internet that they're told. So I understand, because obviously I had the portfolio myself years ago, and we still had the problem, and we still have the problem now. It's those underrepresented groups that I think we're still not getting enough engagement from. And Leader, I agree with you. It's very, very difficult to get somebody to answer your consultation if they're not really interested in it, not realising that it actually could be very important to them, i.e. the budget. So I don't know the answer to the question either. So maybe you've got a crystal ball that I didn't have.
No, I think Councillor Jones, to be fair, I think none of us have cracked. I don't think anybody's cracked this one yet. I think we all would want to see more engagement, and anybody who has any good ideas on how we potentially could do that would be welcome to put them forward. I think the team are really up for trying to make sure that we do engage with people in the right way, and as you say, we don't just limit people to a box. We do take account of the fact that whilst the amount of people who have access to internet has grown and continues to grow, there are still people who the internet and doing things online is not the way they're able to engage, and it's making sure that those digitally excluded people are able to put their views forward.
Okay, Lyndon.
Great, thank you. Yeah, my question is around the use of pupil forums and youth voice. Since last year, how often have pupil forums been used to support consultations, and what barriers, if any, are preventing wider use?
Thank you, Councillor Jones. On this one, I don't have the exact number of how many have taken place, but what I can say is all of our corporate consultations are shared with schools to ensure broad awareness of the opportunities for involvement. Pupil forums are specific, of course, to each school and are designed to give pupils a meaningful voice within the individual school. But we wouldn't have an exact number of how many have taken place. We do not control which issues or consultations the forums engage with, and we don't coordinate that centrally. Obviously, that is decisions for schools are taken in schools. So it is one of those. Obviously, we've got the big conversation mechanism, which is there as well for us to engage with young people. Again, in that, we do attempt to hopefully engage with schools through our schools network, but it is often for them to decide themselves which ones they pick and choose and how involved they get. But the encouragement and the facility is there. But of course, governors, head teachers, teaching staff, and pupils will decide on that for themselves.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, Mike White.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Leader. My question is around focus groups and face-to-face engagement. How will the use of focus groups and face-to-face engagement be embedded more consistently in future consultations and become a corporate-wide tool?
Apologies, thank you, Councillor White. Both focus groups and that important face-to-face engagement will continue to be used across the authority. Some areas recently we've used it and we'll continue to do so are things like the equalities and human rights. We do it also on things like the Welsh language promotion strategy recently. So we do use that, and as I said, it's not just about consultation only, but it's about that potential co-production with people, having that conversation about helping us to co-design what we do and how we do it. So again, that is something that will continue, Councillor White, and it's something that we'll continue to support in relevant consultations, co-production engagements, and other face-to-face sessions across the authority.
Okay, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, back to you, Lyndon.
Great, fine, thank you. What changes have been made to simplify survey preambles, particularly, for example, the budget survey, and what early feedback or testing shows these changes should improve accessibility?
So we have taken the opportunity to try and simplify preambles where we can, but obviously that is a balance between providing people with enough information about the survey and then making it simple and straightforward. So there's always a balance. We try to use graphics and illustrations wherever possible as well to try and make the information more understandable. And obviously one of those opportunities is with things like the budget, where helpfully trying to help people understand how our budget is formed, where it comes from, but also how it is then divided and spent on the services are important parts to helping people understand some of the choices that we have to make as part of the budget decisions that we make as members. Again, we haven't at this point got any specific responses to give back to you today in terms of the impact that has had. But of course, we will do that as part of the feedback that we have as consultations are completed. And again, people are asked for their views on that as part of the process. So we will, the team will draw that together as we go. But as I said to Councillor Jones earlier, we don't have all the good ideas on this. Welcome suggestions from members and others as to any improvements we can make, because we do want to see that engagement increase.
Okay, great, fine, thanks. And I appreciate some of the things maybe you've got there's a legal message you have to get across as well, and you can't simplify that in any way. Appreciate that. Yeah, great, thank you.
Okay, Chris Holly.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Leader, obviously we get quite a bit of data from Data Cymru with benchmarking, etc., and what have you. How confident are you that data is relevant? And the other thing is, internal, when we do some internal, especially when we do internal assessments, when we do our own benchmarking, how does that compare to what we've done, what Data Cymru is saying, and what our internal one is?
Yeah, it is a tricky one, isn't it? Because often it's not just the data that's important in of itself, because it's a snapshot, but the trend. And again, as you'll know, we've only had one set of information currently from Data Cymru, so we'd be keen to see further insights from them. But it's also about not just about a snapshot of Swansea, but where we sit amongst others. So I think as we get more and as we are able to understand the trends, I think we'll get more value out of it. But a one-year snapshot, as we've had at the present time, hasn't, I think, given me enough to know whether it's valuable or not. It's certainly another view of what we do, and it certainly has provided some helpful data in terms of where we may be strong and where we may need to improve. But again, I want to make sure that what we're measuring is being measured effectively across the piece, and that the comparators that are there are valuable ones for us to make a judgment on, because it is one of those things that, statistics, damn lies, and all that stuff that goes together. Yeah. So I want to make sure that what we're relying on to inform our decision making is strong, robust data, and that we've got a good handle on how it was collated and what it's actually telling us.
It's lies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
lies, damn lies, and statistics. That's the one. Yeah.
Is it Winston Churchill said that? I can't remember now.
I don't know who said it, but it's true. The reason I asked this question is very simple, because over the years we get performance data, and every year, maybe late 18 months, they change the criteria the performance is set at. And going back over the years, education is a classic example of how much we spend per pupil. We get that stuff coming down from the Welsh Government, and invariably, when you check the data that they have, certain things are added into education budgets in some authorities, can't mention which ones, which are not added into ours, especially. So that, and I agree with you that it's only a snapshot, and it's only a snapshot as long as you know that it's what's in that data. And I think that's the issue. And I think that's the issue that we should be very mindful of, what is in the data and what's in that information.
Yeah, absolutely right, Councillor Holly. And you'll have faced this yourself, is that often not all authorities will report things in the same way. As you quite rightly say, some authorities may include stuff and others exclude stuff. And therefore, when you see a table or something being presented by an external organisation, it may not always reflect the reality. And again, there is a healthy degree of caution sometimes that has to be laid on top of that. We are quite robust in challenging Welsh Government and other externals if we feel that they haven't collated the data appropriately, and that they haven't fairly taken into account, and they aren't comparing apples with apples, etc. So we do that, and I think that's absolutely right that we do that. But it is a risk with the collation of information from across a national picture.
Yeah, because I'll never forget the fact that we didn't get funding for trunk roads repair, whereas places like Carmarthen and Port Talbot, Neath Port Talbot, were getting it. And I couldn't understand, when you consider that the amount of roads in Swansea, we didn't have trunk road repair. But I do understand it now, but that's besides the point. I think, there are, as you say, there are issues you've got to go back and argue your case as a city. I'm very sorry, that is not, other places are getting it, why aren't we, type of thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Robert, in your response to the working group back in March, you said that once the analysis of the data company survey was complete, you would share the findings appropriately. And you were also collaborating with data company to find ways to share the benchmarking data. Do we know if any progress on those two issues?
I'll certainly follow that up, Chair. I think what I was really keen to ensure as well is the point that we've just discussed, because given that this was a first year of data from Data Cymru, it didn't allow us to have any trend analysis. I think, as I said at the time, wanted to dig a little deeper into the understanding of how that was collated, what it was actually telling us. So I know that we've been doing that. So again, I will chase that up, Chair, and see what we can provide back to the committee as soon as possible.
Okay, lovely. Thanks for that. Anybody got any other questions on this? No. Can I thank you then for answering all the questions and coming along, and we'll most probably write to you about a number of the issues which have been raised as well. So thanks very much, Rob. Thank you.
And thank you, Chair. Can I just thank you and the committee for allowing me to join a bit later due to the personal commitments I had. I do appreciate it.
That's no problem. As we already covered the rest of the agenda before you came along, then that's the end of the meeting. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what he's running to now.